Hello and welcome to another episode of Transcontinental Overload. I'm Stephanie, your host, currently still in Austin, Texas, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I have sat down so many times over those last few weeks and to try and record something, but for one reason or another, I just haven't been able to focus enough to produce something that I wanted to put out there. So this is what feels like my 50th attempt. And so bear with me while I'm trying to get my act together. When this whole thing first really kicked off for us here, about 3 weeks ago when they shut the schools and shops and we were faced with this new reality, at first I thought, great, I have all these ideas and things that I can do. And I sat down and thought this is the perfect time to focus on the podcast and on all sorts of projects that I wanted to do. And then I realized that I was creating all this extra pressure when I really didn't need it. Because let's face it, this is not a crisis like any other we've had before. And so my usual go-to coping mechanism of staying active until I had overcome the crisis didn't work so well. I decided to take a step back from the news, not drive myself crazy with all these demands that I have of myself, be kind to myself and be patient. And I'm trying to focus on the good things because there's so many in this really strange time. Today, for example, was a beautiful spring day here in Texas. It has been raining a lot, so everything now is green and lush, and the bluebonnets are out. Bluebonnets, the Texas state flower. And they're stunning, and there's whole carpets of them everywhere along the roadside, and it's just, we have blue skies today, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I went out with my dog and breathed in the fresh air and decided that I was indeed a very lucky person. Being out in nature helps so much, and I'm so grateful that we're still allowed to do that. I've also really enjoyed having my husband home. He's working and he's incredibly busy, but he's not commuting or traveling. So we have time to go for long walks and we have really good talks. And it's just nice spending family time, even though our teenagers would probably disagree. But all in all, it seems like life has slowed down somewhat. And it almost feels like that was badly needed. We all needed to slow down, take a break, and kind of take a deep breath and reconsider life. And so all in all, we're really lucky. We are enjoying nice food, trying to support our local businesses by choosing their to-go options, which might have a terrible effect on our waistlines, but as long as we can go out and exercise, we're good. I'm not working because the shop I work in has closed its doors, so right now I'm furloughed, and I'm finding that I actually have quite a bit of spare time, which is really special and really nice. I really enjoy talking to friends and family via FaceTime and Zoom and all those other channels, and it's almost like they're all waking up to the fact that we can communicate through those channels. It's something us expats have known for a long time and have done for a long time, but now everyone else is getting in on it, which is fabulous. I'm also really enjoying all those online classes. It's fantastic. I've just realized that I can take a class with my favorite yoga teacher in the Bay Area. I haven't lived there for so long and I've really missed those classes. And I got an email the other day saying, hey, everything's online. Join the session if you want to. So I'm so excited about that. All sorts of new possibilities are opening up. For my own sanity, I just have to focus on that and think about all the good things that are happening right now that will hopefully last us longer, and it might just really cause a fundamental change in the way we're thinking. But as I mentioned before, there's this underlying anxiety. So I am really worried about what's going to happen. And it's that worry and that uncertainty of what's going to happen and how it's going to affect me and my friends, my family, everything really. It's going to be so tough. We all know that. And I think it's just that it's always there, that anxiety. And as much as I'm trying to shake it off and focus on the positive side of things, that's always there lurking in the dark. And I think that's the reason for me not being able to really focus on work, on my podcast and my blog, and trying to create something worth publishing. I've just not been able to do that. And I have a few more episodes, and it just hasn't felt right to just publish them in the usual format with everything that's going on. But I also don't want to let them go to waste. So I'm trying to figure out how to do it. The next episode I was going to publish is actually so relevant right now that I decided to include it in this episode in a slightly abbreviated version. My guest is Kim Adams, founder of ResilientExpats.com. She's a coach who's helping families, schools and teachers deal with global transitions and how we can turn our worries and struggles into resilience and strength. Kim has 10 years of expat experience under her belt. She's originally from Missouri in the United States, has lived in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and currently calls Oman her home. She has plenty of experience in the international school world. Her husband's an international school teacher, and together they're raising 3 third culture kids. Over the last couple of weeks, Kim has added a few blog posts and also some advice and strategies on how to deal with the coronavirus crisis. And it was interesting to see her angle because she is commenting on how, while as expats we have a lot of extra stresses to deal with during this crisis, we can also really benefit from our experiences as expats. So I reached out to Kim, and I'm very excited to say that she's agreed to come back onto my podcast. So the next episode will be all about this. We'll be talking about how we deal with the crisis or what we can do to utilize our strength. So basically, you can look at today's episode as part 1 with Kim Adams, and then next week will be part 2. But for now, let's listen to Kim's story. I do apologize in advance for the quality of the recording. We had a few technical issues due to the Omani internet connection, which was not very consistent, but I hope it won't be too distracting. So just try and ignore all the extra noises and the echo. Hi, Kim. I'm so happy to be talking to you today, not only because obviously Kim is a fellow expat and has gone through a lot of changes and moves with children and different countries and all that, but I'm also very excited because Kim is someone who is trying to make this whole expat experience a better one for families in particular. And I love that. It's very close to my heart because I just feel, when I first set out on this whole moving with a family over 10 years ago, I felt like there wasn't that much in terms of resources. And I feel like we are really trying to create this support network that's available to everybody. When I first contacted you and you said you were trying to pay it back now because you had an amazing support network in your first experience. How did you get to that point, and what prompted you to take it one step further?
Okay.
I love your mission, your passion, and why don't you tell us your story?
Okay. So my husband's been a teacher ever since I've known him, and we wanted to travel and kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that it would only happen, we would only be able to afford it after retirement because on a teacher salary in the US, and then our only time to travel is during the summer when it's peak prices. That we had just kind of resigned ourselves. And then he started teaching in the IB program and went to a training and found out all these other teachers were coming. They were on their home leave, coming back and getting their training up to date. And that was when we discovered the whole world of international teaching. And so we made our plans and we said, we're going to do it. And our first stop was in Thailand, which was an amazing, wonderful place to be. And we always say that if it hadn't been our first stop, it would have been our last because it was so great. It was all very exciting. And over the years we were there, I just watched the things that were on offer in the community. It was really interesting expat community full of people doing development work, and there were lots of NGOs, lots of missionary organizations. And so there was a support network for those organizations. They had a lot of employees in the area. And so we were able to take advantage of some of those resources because we were expats and I was kind of watching what was on offer. So we did take advantage of that and really appreciated the support. We didn't realize that it was unusual.
So you would probably just assume that that's normal. That's what happens when there is a community of a lot of international people. And yes,
Exactly.
it is not the norm that there's a support network.
Yeah, and our school in both cases has done a fabulous job of helping us settle in. They handle the majority of the paperwork that we need to do, setting up utilities and banking and all the visa stuff. Just was so much smoother for us than for people that I've seen since then who are either independent or are with an organization their company is not providing as much support. And it makes so much difference.
Oh my God, yes.
But that doesn't exist everywhere.
No, definitely not. And I'm just thinking back to our own experience when we moved to California, and we were one of the first families that were sent out of the country by the company, and I think they just didn't know, and we've had to fight for every single thing. They allocated us a local expert for 2 days. We had someone literally a local person who knew the area that we were considering, and they just drove us around and showed us houses and said, oh look, this is Trader Joe's. That's where you can shop. And it was absolutely useless because all the research and I am, well, like yourself, I like to prepare and do my research, and I did. And I came prepared with maps and lists, and I knew the boundaries of the school district. They showed us houses that weren't even the school district wanted, and I was like, well, what's the point of this? And then we asked, could we have another day with another relocation agent, and they said no. And it was just unbelievable, really. I mean, it might be different now 10 years on, but the lack of support, and then ongoing support, of course, too, which is, it's not just a moving there, but it's the ongoing support, like checking in after a few weeks and months. And I think, there's so
yes,
much
absolutely.
to be done.
And I think that's it's like a whole nother ball of wax, the ongoing support. There's that first stage, the first few weeks when you're just in shock and trauma almost, and things that you get told you don't even remember 2-3 weeks later because you're so overwhelmed. And then after a few months, then you've got a whole different set of questions to ask.
Yes, especially as a family, because you're all going through different things, separate from each other. So that was Thailand. And then, so how long were you there for?
We were there for 5 years.
Okay.
Then we moved to Oman. And it's, I'm used to being able to research myself by looking online or in a phone book or on a map or having information available that I can sift through. And this is a culture that's very much word of mouth. And so the only way you find out stuff is by talking to people. And that was a big adjustment for me. There is a lot of knowledge if you connect with the right people.
Yeah.
Well, and you're also in that stage when you don't know the questions to ask. You don't know what you don't know.
Very true.
And whereas you have something to read and you can kind of read over it several times and you pick up different bits as you go. For me, it feels quite different. So that was a big adjustment.
And how old were your children when you moved to Oman?
7.5 and 2.5.
Okay. So you're saying your older one is now secondary school age?
Yeah.
So so are you kind of thinking of staying in Oman for that period in her life, or is it?
Most likely we will try to go when she's between grade 8 and 9. So we have another academic year after this one, and then we feel like at that point we would need to choose either stay for several more years until she
Mhm.
finishes or go ahead and go. Maybe 1 year after that would still be okay, but ideally we would give her at least 3 years, but preferably 4 years.
Okay. And then
In one
are you thinking of going to another unknown, as of now, unknown location, or do you think you might go back to the US?
Yes, an unknown location, even if that's in the US. um, it's a difficult thing to plan ahead because in the international teachers world, you have to resign early.
Yeah.
So if you're a teacher, you have to turn in resignation by December because recruiting season is in January and February, and the school needs to know what positions to advertise. So you quit your job, and
Mhm.
then a couple months later, you go and search for a job, and it depends on who has an opening at the right
Yes.
time. Maybe we'll try, and then if we don't find anything, the US is a backup plan. But then if we go there, that's a whole
Yes, because
big
your children have not been in the school system in the US, and so that's a big one.
The US is massive.
Absolutely.
There's
And I
too
mean, we
many
moved,
places.
yes. And I think in general, different school systems, usually between countries, of course, but between states too. And it's a huge burden really on children to overcome. And when they're younger, you always think, oh yeah, they'll just settle in and they'll get used to it. But as they get older, that just gets more and more complex,
Yeah,
and which
yeah.
we've had to experience at various levels. And it's really not something I would want to put them through again. So and myself, it's a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this wonderful blog post on your website. It's called "My Child's Identity Snuck Up on Me," and it really resonated with me. I felt like that's exactly what I've experienced with
Mm,
my children. And if you don't mind, Kim, I would love to read a few passages from it because it's just so
sure, yeah.
wonderful. The other day, I was shocked to hear my 11-year-old say she doesn't consider herself an American. Wait, what? For a school assignment, she needed to research a question related to her home country. I really don't feel like the US is my home, she said with a hint of apology and confusion. So I chose Oman. Can you help me with my homework? When we first moved overseas, I heard about seminars for parents raising third culture kids. My kids were so young I didn't attend, but at least I knew that I'd need to learn about this topic down the road. As time passed, I began to see the signs, little things that felt like big things. My daughter didn't know that Thanksgiving is our biggest holiday and means a 4-day weekend. She didn't know any of the states or capitals or national parks or geography or anything. When we relocated to another country, I found some short guides that were great for helping kids process a move. Later, I read Third Culture Kids Growing Up Among Worlds by David C. Pollock and Ruth van Reken, and I found it immensely helpful.
Absolutely.
So I knew that my children's identity would be different from mine, but being told is not the same as knowing. Then it smacked me in the face. I was shocked at how different her identity struggle was from my own identity investigation. Back to the homework situation. I stayed composed, circumspect, while helping with her assignment. But inside I was thinking, you're not American? How is that even possible? Both your parents are American. All of your grandparents and cousins live in the US, and we go there every summer. Well, then, who are you anyway? Clearly, you're not Thai and you're not Omani. I must have failed at parenting for things to turn out like this. I had a strong urge to stock up on DVD collections of Leave It to Beaver and The Brady Bunch, as if that could magically fortify her with the proper sentiments. I felt as if part of me had been lost, as if I had failed to pass on something very basic. I knew our life choices were leading to this conclusion, yet I somehow had not really grasped how radically different my child's sense of identity would be. I knew that she would be less tied to the US than I am. I did not appreciate that she would not even claim my country, our country, her country. So now I find myself in a strange new world where I claim to be an American and my oldest child does not.
Hmm. Yeah, a couple things. One is I think that I imagined that this would come about when she entered university. So I
Mhm.
thought, if we live away for a lot of years and then she returns to the US for university, she will have the outer appearance of an American, but on the inside, she will feel different and like she doesn't really know
Mhm.
the references that people have, and people will notice some differences, and then it will become a struggle. But I guess I didn't really appreciate that she wouldn't even say she was an American. Like I thought she would say, "I'm an American, but I feel different."
It's just a huge thing to get your head around, I think. And where you just have to let go of that and go, well, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and that was the other thing, is that she still has the passport,
Mhm.
and that confers a lot of privilege in this world, at least currently.
Mhm.
And that's something that we've become much more aware of living in Oman. And
Yes, I imagine.
we live halfway between Muscat, which is the capital of Oman, and Dubai, which is in the UAE. And so sometimes we will drive across the border to
Mhm.
Dubai, and we have friends who are from South Africa, and they can't cross the border without paying a lot of money, or they can't cross the border without the husband in the car, or they can't travel without a letter um, giving permission for the mother to have the kids there and whatnot. And that's just one example. But there are many examples of how your
Yes.
passport makes a huge difference on your ability to move around in the world. Going to get a driver's license. I just show my American driver's license. Okay, here you go. Here's your driver's license. Other people have been driving just as long as me, and it's a 6-month ordeal for them to get a
Oh,
local
wow.
driver's license.
Talking about identity again, how are the younger children feeling? I mean, they're probably too young to really think about this, but
It's funny.
because you said your second one was 2 when you left Thailand?
And the youngest one was born here in Oman. So it's funny. They make different statements at different times, and it's an evolving thing, and it's a very abstract concept.
Yeah.
So our middle child was born in Thailand, and so for a long time she was sure that she was Thai. So she would say, "Oh, Hannah is American and I'm Thai, and Margot is Omani." And now she identifies herself as an American, and she seems very happy to claim that. Whereas
Mhm.
Hannah, the older one, is struggling.
Yeah.
She's at that a different stage of life, and she's not really sure how she feels about that. And the middle one is very happy to tell everyone that she's an American. So it's interesting to see
It
how it
is totally
develops.
interesting. I just, and it's nice to watch them go through those stages, and because it's for us who haven't grown up as a TCK, it's almost like it's probably the wrong word, but it's almost like an experiment, like watching them and
Yeah,
watching them
yeah,
learn different languages and all that while being a child, and while all these developing stages, because you and I we went to school in one country and we had languages at school, but we didn't have to think about all that, but they probably don't think about it properly yet, or not, they're not aware that they're
yeah.
thinking about it.
We didn't have to think about it, but also we didn't get to think about it.
That's very true, until it hits you and you think, well,
Yeah.
who am I, what am I? It's definitely interesting to watch children go through those stages.
Yeah, it's a really special thing. I love what my kids get by being in an international school, and it's always trade-offs.
Yeah, yes, as always, good and bad. And it's like I always, especially when it's bad and when you're going through a really bad time, or they have a really really tough time at school, I always kind of tell myself that eventually they're going to appreciate all this, and they don't realize it yet.
That's the mantra of parenting, right?
It's but just I'm just watching my oldest one is graduating high school this year, and so she's, of course she's going to go away, she's got that whole, I'm going to move to another country and I'm going to live there. And that for her, that's normal. And she's not afraid.
Yeah.
She's seen that so much and had to do it so much. And so for her, she doesn't realize that a lot of kids don't feel like that.
My older one still says that she's never going to leave home. So we'll see. You know, we have a few more years. That can change.
She hasn't hit the teenage years yet. Okay, so before we delve into your website and your workshops, let's do a quick fire question round.
Okay.
Question number 1. What do you miss the most from your home country? So for you from the US, but also from Thailand.
For my home country and life in general, as I knew it before we moved abroad, I really miss being able to find out stuff, to know how and where to find things, to be able to go into a store and ask questions and understand the answer. I really miss that. From Thailand, I miss the food. So good. And also the visual stimulation. It's just so beautiful. No matter where you are, there's always something interesting to look at.
Question number 2. What do you love about your new country or countries? What did you love the most about Thailand, and what do you love the most about Oman?
Oh, for Thailand, it's the same thing. I absolutely love the food, and it's so beautiful to look at. In Oman, I love the fact that we can go camping anywhere. I mean, basically anywhere that's not in a city or in a town, you can pitch a tent. And not only can we go camping anywhere, we're not dealing with bugs and insects that keep me from wanting to go camping in other places.
Question number 3. What did you think was true about your new countries, but now you know is not? What surprised you the most? What did you not expect?
Well, I feel a little silly saying this, but I was surprised that the desert is not sandy. I think if I had looked at more pictures, this wouldn't have been such a shock for me. But when we first arrived and it's just all rocks and dust, I was surprised. There are some sand dunes, but not really anywhere near where we drive on a daily basis. Another thing that I'm still working on, it's been a surprise for me, is how the cultural greetings and invitations are not really invitations. So when you meet someone and they say, "Oh, come to my house," they don't necessarily actually mean "come to my house." They use it a bit more like the way we use "How are you?" We don't necessarily actually want to know how they are. It's just a greeting. So I know that until they get to the third invitation, then it becomes, you don't really know if it's an invitation or not.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about how you came to come up with the website, resilientexpats.com, and what you're planning to do with it.
Okay. Well, when we started talking, when you said 10 years ago, there just wasn't much out there. I think I had a similar sense once we came to Oman, and I realized that people in this community, many of them don't have the kind of baseline knowledge around third culture kids, and it's not really on their radar. Then I started poking around and realized that it was hard for me to find information online. And now that I've poked around a lot more, I realize there actually is a lot available, but I don't think people aren't searching for it in the terms that it's presented, or they're not thinking of questions in those terms. It's more of the sorts of things that they chat about with their friend over coffee, and not the sort of things that they're searching for online. At least this is my current theory. And so I guess my grand vision is that it will become commonplace that people know about these issues, and it will become commonplace that people have a toolbox of coping strategies and that they use their toolbox. So, yeah, I just want to get the word out and give people practical tools that they can really apply. I don't want to give people a bunch of theory. I want to give them something that they can use today with their family that will make a difference. And it doesn't have to be a big, super profound thing, but just something that they can, that's accessible for everyone and makes a difference.
I love your approach to the whole family. So to not just approach it from a kind of abstract, or this is what the kids need and this is what you need to do to get that, but to approach the whole family, and you just look at it differently. I think every single member of the family we have to approach this as a unit. And I think that's quite different. And I think a lot of people don't realize that that's healthy. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that really came to me from a workshop that we went to in Chiang Mai that was designed for the whole family to process transitions together as a unit. So each family, there were several families together in the room, but each one was working as its own group around their own table. And one of the activities is to do a timeline. And so the whole family contributes to what were the milestones in our life. And so the parents and the kids are contributing their ideas, and then you're illustrating and making notes. And then everyone is kind of talking about what were the high points and the low points in my life. And then you're comparing, well, who was high and who was low at different times. And you're just getting a really different lens on how we all experience the same things, but certain experiences jumped out as really important to the kids that the parents would never have thought of. And, maybe the kids were having a grand time while the parents were really struggling, and you just never knew that before. And then there was another activity where we each had our own separate piece of paper, and we drew about how we were feeling around the whole transition, whether you had just completed a transition or whether you were getting ready to move. And, there's just so many feelings. And so we all kind of individually took time to reflect and draw and then share with each other what came out of that drawing process. And again, it was a way to connect on a level that we would not have done without that activity.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's what showed me how we could all be experiencing this thing in very different ways, but when we come together and share it with each other, we've got common vocabulary that we can use, not just during the workshop, but then for the rest of our lives.
Well, and also be valued, just kind of feel like someone is actually validating your feelings, because you're given the platform to voice them, or to just make a drawing that expresses it. If the younger kids, I guess drawing is super helpful. It's amazing to actually have a say in it, because very often it's just the family makes a decision, which actually means the parents make the decision.
And one of the really special things about the way this workshop is set up, I think, is that it's the parents and the kids are literally sitting around the same table, and sometimes literally on the same page. And it's a very different dynamic from the parents quizzing the kids, or even sitting around the dinner table posing a question to the kids. It can be a very open question, but it's still like, okay, the parent is directing the kid, and there's this sense of, okay, there might be a right and wrong response. But when you're all sitting there and the parents are saying, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and this is how I'm exploring, and I was surprised by this, it's a really different dynamic. So I love it.
And I think I love that whole idea too. And I love also the fact that the children will hear your own worries and your own grief, because if you can tell them, I'm really sad that we're going, I feel really conflicted, because I think the children just mostly just assume that you make that decision to move because you want to, and so that's that, and they don't really see how you're suffering yourself. And I think, well, sometimes it just takes another person to facilitate that, because I think it's always harder in a family, because there's always someone who's like, okay, let's do this. So then you become the facilitator. But I think I like the idea of having someone like an outsider who's going to come in and say, right, let's all sit down and this is what we're going to do. And you're all in exactly the same position. So no one is the person in power. So whether it's the dad or the mum,
Right.
everyone has the same say. And I love that.
Yes.
I'm very excited to see what else you come up with. Where this is.
Yeah. So I will be putting that workshop in an online format. So it will be accessible for people who the ideal situation, as you say, is you have this outside facilitator who's like, okay, we're all going to sit around the table, but now listen to that person who can facilitate it for you. But even if that scenario doesn't work out, it will still be available that there'll be other ways for the family to do the activities. So, yeah, I'm excited about getting that.
Yeah, that's really nice, and to kind of accommodate all different ages too, because I always feel, I mean, there's you find a lot of information on moving with young children and bilingualism and all that kind of stuff, but I find that when it comes to older children, there's not that much information out there. I think to have some access to someone supporting that transition, especially with older children, is amazing. So that's really something I think we definitely could have done with. But again, I know that now, and I wish I'd kind of been more aware a few years ago.
Well, you said your oldest is going to university this year?
Well, she's applied to university, but she wants to take a gap year. So she has decided that she needs to, because of we moved the last 3 years, we moved from the States to the UK and back from the UK back to the States. And so she's her high school years have been a mess, to kind of sum it up in one, and she feels that she needs to take a break from school.
Well, that's fair. I was just going to say, she's not too old. It's not too late to kind of do some of this. And I also have access to some materials that are targeted towards high schoolers transitioning to the next stage.
Yeah.
And, some of the activities are the same.
So looking at your website, you're working with families, but you also work with schools. Can you let me know a bit more about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited about developing programs for schools to use with their students and their students' families and with their teachers. I think that's a huge need that is not really well recognized. There are schools that are doing a great job. I think a lot more schools can add to that.
And I always imagine that the international school teachers have special training in all these things, and they probably receive a lot more training than teachers in the normal public school sector. And I always feel that there could be so much more awareness what it means to be the new kid in class and not speak the language. And I know teachers that they would love to do so much more, and they're so limited in what they can do, and just from a financial point of view and also from a time point of view. So I'm really excited that you are developing those programs and workshops, because it would be just so good to have something that's readily available for everybody who wants it.
Yeah, that's what I would like to do, because this book I'm reading, Safe Passage, How Mobility Affects People and What International Schools Should Do About It, is amazing. But it's like a textbook. It's very dense. I would like to take some of those materials and simplify it and put it where, here, I can just put this in your hand and you can do something with it right now.
Yes. So, fantastic. Yeah, that's exactly what we need, because I mean, even and I'm so interested in all this, but even I will not pick up a big textbook and fight my way through it. Yeah. So so you said you're setting this up right now on your website. So when can we expect to be able to sign up for workshops and things like that?
I would say before the school year is finished.
Very exciting. I think raising awareness that you do need help, you do need support, and it's there. And I think that's the biggest thing. Your experience will be much better if you actually do reach out, and I think that's
Yeah.
huge. So I'm really happy to that. Yeah, you're one of the people who's working actively to do that. My last question is there anything that you do as a family or yourself when you are homesick or when you miss the country that you're not currently in? Do you have any traditions or special recipes that you make that reminds you of that place?
Um, every once in a while, we make a Thai soup that just hits the spot every time. It's tom kha gai. It does require a few special ingredients that um, here we can go to the grocery store and get this little box that has galangal and kaffir lime leaves and lemongrass, shallots, and Thai peppers inside. So it's got all the things. But aside from that, it's
That sounds
very,
delicious.
very easy to put together. Some coconut and fish sauce broth that's sweet and sour with lime. And yeah, it always hits the spot.
Oh, that sounds good. Thank you so much. And thank you for being on my podcast. It was really nice talking to you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Kim.
Oh, thank you so much.
So that's it from me for today. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Kim and maybe found some inspiration or maybe even some distraction from the news. I really look forward to sharing part 2 of our conversation with you. So stay tuned and see you next time.